Talk about a hotter day on the high desert. Hey everyone, I am meteorologist Darrell Winninger from the Central Oregon Daily Weather Center, and we are about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. We're going to be looking at some of the changes that we've already had across Central Oregon, what changes come next, when they happen, if any showers, thunderstorms, anything is on the way, and how long this heating trend really continues for the Tri-County area. So we're going to start things off just looking outside, just focusing on some of the cameras. Now, there are several cameras that are showing some smoke in the air. Several of them also showing mostly clear conditions. So we have a mixture of what's actually happening out there. Tons of sunshine, a lot of smoke, and areas that are sitting under good air quality. But when we focus a little bit more on a couple other cameras, these ones are all courtesy of the Oregon Hazards Lab, and we are going to zoom into another one more time, but for most of them, they just show some pockets of haze across Central Oregon. But let's focus a little bit more on the Powell Butte and the Klein Buttes cameras. The Klein Buttes one, really hard to see, but off in the distance, right under the double T for Buttes, there is a smoke plume. The Powell Butte one, you can see that a little bit better, and that smoke plume is part of the Roe Creek complex still. Just both cameras pointed in that direction. It looks like with the critically dry conditions and the stronger winds, it was a little bit of a flare-up. But we are continuing to track that, as well as several other things that we're focusing not just across the state, but across the entire Pacific Northwest and even out past that. So we're going to be talking back and forth a little bit and really focusing on what's expected, not just during the next 72 hours, but starting Friday, going all the way through this weekend. And one best way to do that is just to look at the big picture. Infrared satellite imagery is showing us that there's not much happening across Central Oregon right now, and there is no precipitation in sight. But when we look at the bigger picture, number one, those white lines are what we refer to as isobars, lines of constant pressure, and where they get really tightly stacked next up to each other, we have stronger winds, such as right along the Oregon coast right now. So through Central Oregon, that's not too bad, but we have to zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture again, even more of the bigger picture. So Lala is continuing to work its way to the west, just past Hawaii, and between Hawaii and the American mainland right now, between Hawaii and Baja, there is a plume of subtropical moisture that's just lifting right into the Pacific Northwest. And there's also a low pressure center right at that area. And what we're actually seeing is that low pressure is what we refer to as an upper level low. And it's weak. It's not very strong, but it could bring enough instability by the time it gets here to give us a chance of some showers. Now, with this current setup, any showers that develop are going to be tracking for the potential of thunderstorm activity. So let's look at a few other things before we really get to that. Pardon me. There is still an air quality alert for Hood River County, Wasco County, Jefferson County, and Crook counties, all because of smoke coming off of three main fires. Those fires are the Grasshopper Fire, which is just to the east of Hood, and there's also the Austin Fire. So there's the Grasshopper Fire. Oh, let me get my mouse. There's the Grasshopper Fire right there. And the Hood Fire, the one up by Hood. The Austin Fire is right here, and we still have the Roe Creek complex burning. Now, the two cameras that we were just looking at, the Powell Butte cameras and the Klein Buttes cameras, those are both pointed towards the Roe Creek complex. Outside of that, our air quality is good to moderate, with one area between over Jefferson County and parts of Wasco County, between Warm Springs, Madras, and even as far south as Metolius, there's an area of unhealthy for sensitive groups, and that's because of smoke coming through the Cascade Gaps from the Austin Fire and just straight south over the Warm Springs Reservation from the Grasshopper Fire. And so we're continuing to check both those smoke plumes. But here's what it looked like. Through the day, we actually had poor air quality in that same area. And then it wasn't until afternoon that really started to clear up. In fact, through the late morning, we still had moderate air quality for most. And as of right now, good for most of Deschutes and Crook counties. And that's because that smoke plume is still a little further to the north. And as of today, it looks like the majority of our smoke plume is coming from the Austin Fire. So that's coming through the Cascade Gaps, specifically just south of Jefferson near Three Finger Jack and through Sandy Ann Pass. And that's what's pouring into Jefferson County and southern Wasco County. Now, the Grasshopper Fire is still producing smoke. The Roe Creek Complex is still producing smoke. Just the majority of that smoke is coming from the Austin fire. And here through the overnight hours, that is going to thicken up a little bit more. It's going to spread out. And tomorrow we're going to be starting with some areas of just poor air quality like we have been getting. Most of that in Jefferson and Crook County, a little bit of it also in Deschutes County. And that smoke just continues to dance over the Pacific Northwest through the next couple of days. But let's talk fire weather concerns, because we have this red flag warning that is in place for the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs Reservation, Wasco County, getting into parts of Hood River County, and going all the way through north central Oregon, all the way over to Pendleton. And that's until 10 p.m. on Tuesday, but let's just go ahead and double check a couple spots. Yeah, it looks like most of these are still going to be until 10 p.m. this evening. So that's hasn't changed much. Meanwhile, we just have critically dry conditions. And when I say critically dry, this is what I mean. Relative humidity values are measured in percentages. Very rarely do we get, in this time of the year, do we get anything above 30-40%. It has to be pretty much raining for that to happen. And when we start to get into the single digits out of the teens, that's just critically dry. That's bone dry. That is dust. That is really bad. And so with these very dry conditions and winds that have been becoming gusty at times, some of these gusts between 20 and 25 miles per hour, add in those two factors, and we're looking at the potential of any fires that start likely to spread rapidly. So it's not just the Warm Springs Reservation, not just Wasco County going up all the way through Pendleton that has this fire risk. It's all of us because of the strong winds, because of the critically dry conditions. That's why when I saw that smoke plume coming up on the Powell Butte and Klein Butte's cameras, I instantly wanted to start to get more information, because I didn't know right away until I looked into it whether that was a Roe Creek Complex, which it was, or it was a different fire, which it was not. And so that's one thing that we're going to continue to track through the next couple of days. Fortunately, well, good news, bad news situation. Today, it is just breezy through the next couple of hours, but these are the strongest winds we're looking at through the next couple of days. All of this changes on Friday. But here through the next few hours, we do have winds that are just going to be breezy, even gusty at times. Those taper off after sunset, and by tomorrow, we're looking at 5 to 15 mile per hour winds swinging back around to the north and the northwest. Now, that's also good news, bad news. Winds, not as strong as today. Still going to be critically dry. But these winds swinging around to the north and the northwest going to push more of that smoke from the Austin fire and the Grasshopper fire right into our neck of the woods. By Thursday, much the same, evening hours, getting a little breezy at times. Meanwhile, when we look at your forecast model, what we're seeing is these stronger winds taper off after sunset, and tomorrow, some in and out clouds, but they're going to be very light. By Thursday, some PM clouds, but not much at all in the way of precipitation. And that is the high resolution forecast model. We're going to look at a couple more between now and the time we're done with all of this. But here through the rest of this evening, we go from hot to warm to mild. So tonight, 50s with some 40s. By tomorrow, topping out in the 90s once again, but a little more heating as expected. So, and with the lack of cloud cover, our UV intensity forecast is still going to be very high. We actually keep this graphic going until we get to Labor Day. That's when the solar angle starts to get low enough that we're not too much worried about UV intensity. You'll still want some sunscreen if you're spending a lot of time outside by then, but right now it's still very high. By Friday, that changes. That changes because of cloud cover and even a chance of rain. So that's right, we are going from 90s to the potential of some thunderstorm activity. But between now and Friday at 11 p.m., some showers are indeed expected, and then we're tracking that low that's just off the Oregon coastline, and we're going to get to that. But one more graphic right here, we are looking at the temperature trend, and it shows temperatures warming well into the mid-90s, then plummeting starting Friday, coming back down below average for this time of the year. Some isolated storms are expected Friday afternoon, getting into the evening hours. Now, your forecast model, we are tracking a couple of different things, but right behind my head, right about there's a low pressure system. That's the one that we're tracking. That's the one that's going to roll into the Pacific Northwest, and that's the one that could actually bring us some thunderstorm activity. It's just behind my head right now. So going forward through the rest of tonight and the next couple of days, we do have some in and out clouds. This is right on target with what the high resolution forecast model was showing. Then we get to Thursday. This specific model has a very low chance of a few sprinkles on Thursday. I'm not worried about that. I don't think that's going to result in thunderstorm activity. However, That's just showing how much moisture's in the air. That's showing that tap of subtropical moisture that's going to be lifting into our neck of the woods. And then by Friday, we start to get some showers. A few thunderstorms are possible, and then it clears out as quickly as it comes in. Let me reset that. We are going to look at a different forecast model. This is the upper level flow. I typically don't show this one. This is what we use, geopotential heights, and it helps us identify and understand where the high pressure is, where the low pressure is. It's really the only way I could see this low pressure system and really get a fix for analysis of what's happening with it. It was in this specific forecast model run, or not the specific run, but the specific viewing type. And you can see that it is a very broad trough of low pressure, and it's what we call a cutoff low. It's not embedded within or around the jet stream or the subtropical jet. It's really just cutting right in between these two ridges of high pressure, and that's the path that it's going to take, the path of least resistance. Then by Friday, it freeze frames just offshore. Then through the next couple of days, it impacts the Pacific Northwest. It cuts right through Central Oregon, going through Central Washington. This is when we have that best chance of showers and thunderstorms. Then we turn our attention to a different low. This one is a much stronger low. And by the time we get to next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, it's out over the Pacific Ocean, or really over the Gulf of Alaska, pardon me. And it's just going to work its way to the Pacific Northwest, but not until the way, way, way long range forecast. In fact, I'm not even worried about this one. If it actually rolls in, that could be a really interesting setup where we're looking at a big dip in temperatures and some rain, maybe some thunderstorms. But it's too far out to really get into that one too much. I just thought it was interesting and I wanted to show you. Now, when it comes to precipitation, between now and Monday at 5 p.m., some of us get wet, some of us get some thunderstorms, some of us don't even get a drop of rain in the sky, and that's mostly going to happen on Friday. Meanwhile, when we look at temperatures tonight, we're talking 50s and some 40s. By tomorrow, 90s with a few 80s left out there. That's right. We are getting even hotter than it was today. And that heating trend continues through Thursday. By Friday, we start the next cool down. And this next cool down comes with gusty winds. We have that potential of showers with some thunderstorms, and then getting into the overnight hours, some of those lingering showers are expected, but that also triggers a huge drop in temperatures. And Sunday, when we start to turn our attention to that low that's over the Gulf of Alaska by then that I was just showing you, that's when over the high desert, we got tons of sunshine. It's not going to be until hump day of next week that one actually arrives, but between now and then, just more in and out clouds, more 80s, close to average for this time of the year. The best chance of rain that we have is Friday. And that one could come with some thunderstorm potential. So ultimately, when we look at our weather headlines for this Tuesday, August the 18th, we are back into the 90s today. We stay in the 90s through Thursday. Times of poor air quality are expected, and our forecast flips on Friday. That's flip number one. Flip number two might not actually happen. That's way out in the future. It's actually like typically I wouldn't even show you that far out. It was just super interesting, and I thought it was pretty cool. But as of right now, satellite and radar shows no precipitation in sight. We are firmly under a broad ridge of high pressure, and we are bringing the heat on the high desert with more smoke. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecasts. See you then.